This video is a compilation of the 6 oral narratives that we've discussed so far. It is a compilation so that someone who wants to binge watch them can do that. If you're looking for the individual videos, be sure to check out the playlist. I've put a link on the description and also on the end screen. Enjoy. Welcome back to the channel. We've been on this very exciting journey of oral narratives, and I'm so glad that most of you are finding these videos informative and useful. This video is the first in a series that looks at the different types of oral narratives. And in this video, we'll look at the first type, the trickster narratives. A trickster narrative is an oral narrative that has a character who plays a trick on another for personal gain. This character who plays a trick is called the trickster, and the trickster's victim is called the dupe. In most cases, the trickster is a smaller animal or character than the dupe. This is usually done to show that the brain is mightier than brawn, or if you like, intelligence is more important than sheer strength. Sometimes the trickster is punished, or they fall victim to their own tricks. This happens mostly if their trick was very dangerous and caused harm to the victim, or if the trick that they executed caused some inconvenience to the community. In East African stories, the trickster is always the hare, while in West Africa, we have Anansi the spider being the trickster. Trickster narratives were mostly told to children because children are very playful and cheeky, and they are told two things through these stories. That one, it is good to have fun, but have fun with boundaries, because some of these pranks that you pull can be dangerous. Another lesson we learn from these stories is that we should not judge a person by their stature. They could be small in stature, but their character is grand. So, trickster narratives have a character who plays a trick on another, and this character who plays a trick uses their intelligence to take advantage of another. In the next video, we are going to look at the second type of oral narratives, the monster or ogre narratives. An ogre narrative is an oral narrative which has a main character with grotesque features. These features are not normal. You can have a character who has 3 eyes, or an extremely big head, or 10 legs. These characters also portray some detestable character traits, such as being gluttonous or always planning evil. We find that they can come from the caves to the village to eat children or to take people away. We also find that they have some supernatural abilities. For example, a character can cross a river just by jumping across it. We also see that these characters have an ability to change their form. An example, they can change their form from the ogre into a handsome young man or a beautiful woman. This they do to lure other victims. Eventually, these ogres are killed, and when they are killed, the stories have a happy ending because they can tell the community to cut their stomachs, and when the stomach is cut, all the victims that they had killed come out alive. These stories were meant for children to scare them into learning some moral values. An example, if in a story someone was told not to open the door no matter what, and they opened the door, and then outside they meet an ogre who takes them to the forest, this one tells the children that they should always obey their parents. Monster narratives use a lot of symbolism because the ogres or monsters represent people in the society, the evil people in the society, the gluttonous people in the society, those people who are always planning evil. So, an ogre narrative has a character with grotesque features, a character with superhuman abilities, and a character that plans evil on the society. Children are naturally curious, and they can ask us questions like, why does the zebra have stripes? Or, why does the tortoise have a cracked shell? In the traditional African society, we had stories that had answers to these questions. These stories are called explanatory narratives or aetiological narratives. An aetiological narrative is an oral narrative that tries to explain why things are the way they are. These stories tell us why the hyena walks with a limp, or why the giraffe has a long neck, or even why the hawk and the hen do not see eye to eye. These stories were meant to teach children about their environment and to satisfy their curiosity. They have a very distinct closing formula. They can end with phrases like, "from that day," or "since that day," or "this is why." The stories were meant for children because they are the ones who could be convinced by the explanations. If you told an adult that the zebra has stripes because they went to a party and someone painted them, an adult would ask you, "if I painted myself blue, would I give birth to blue babies?" Of course, the answer is no, but children would be easily convinced and their curiosity satisfied. So, an explanatory narrative tries to explain why things are the way they are. If you're finding value in these videos, be sure to subscribe and give us a like. This is the best way to encourage and motivate us. In the next video, we're going to talk about the next type of oral narratives. Thanks for watching. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to choose between two or more options that were of almost equal weight? You found yourself in some kind of dilemma. This is what a dilemma narrative looks like. A dilemma narrative is an oral narrative that shows a character who has to make a very difficult decision. This character has to choose between options that are of almost equal weight. An example is this king who had his kingdom ravaged by a mysterious illness. When he went to the oracle told him that for him to stop that pandemic, he had to sacrifice his only daughter. Now this king is in a dilemma. He has to choose between sacrificing and losing the daughter, thus saving the subjects, and saving the daughter but putting the subjects in danger. These choices that these characters make in dilemma narratives are always based on some moral ground. They have to choose between selfish gains and the common good. Most dilemma narratives end in suspense. They end before the character makes the choice. This is done for two reasons. One, to encourage debate after the story has been told. Two, this is done to try and teach critical thinking in the community so that after the story is told, the audience can start discussing the choices they could have made and the consequences. So, a dilemma narrative shows a character who has to make a very difficult decision, and most of these stories end in suspense. Why are we here, and where did we come from? These two fundamental questions of our existence have troubled the human race since the dawn of time. Every community has stories that try to explain where we came from, our purpose on this earth, and who created us. These stories are called myths. A myth is an oral narrative that tries to explain the beginning of time. It tries to examine our existence, who created us, our migrations, our wars, and even the existence of phenomena such as death. Since a big chunk of myths are creation stories, they often go back to the very beginning, the beginning of time itself. And because of this, their opening formula are always different from the other types of oral narratives. They can start with a phrase like, "in the beginning," or "one day, God was walking." You see, at this point, it goes back to the very beginning. As we've said, myths can also talk about the existence of phenomena such as death. So stories from our communities that talk about the existence or the origin of death will be myths. A myth is marked by the existence of a supernatural being or beings. These supernatural beings can be gods or even spirits. And myths will tell us about the relationship between these supernatural beings and the human beings. Since a myth has the existence of supernatural beings, they are very religious in nature. They have a religious angle. This means that they are fundamental to the beliefs of the society from which they are extracted. Because of their religious nature, Myths are transmitted or handed down from one generation to the next with utmost care. Also, storytellers make sure that they do not change them as they tell and retell them, because you cannot change the fundamental beliefs of a community. These are religious beliefs. So myths are transmitted with utmost care and do not change with retelling. As we've seen, myths are stories that talk about our existence. They examine our origins and the origins of phenomena such as death. They are very religious in nature and they show the existence of supernatural beings. In the next video, we're going to talk about our next type of oral narratives, the legends. Every community has stories of individuals who achieved extraordinary feats.
The time has come. The winner of the Global Teacher Prize for 2019 is Peter Tabachi.
These are individuals who elevated themselves above everybody else by doing things that were deemed unachievable before they did them. They achieved these feats through some superhuman ability. These stories are called legends. A legend is a story that talks about a hero or a heroine. These hero or heroines can be wrestlers, seers, soldiers, or even medicine men and women. These heroes and heroines achieve feats that others could only dream of. We can talk about a wrestler who was indomitable, or even a soldier whose skin was impregnable, or even a seer who foretold of the coming of a plague before it happened. These individuals are immortalized through stories and even songs. Legends are deemed secular in nature because they deal mostly with worldly things. They therefore can change with telling and retelling as we exaggerate some parts about them. An example, if you're telling a story of someone who could change their form into bees, then in another retelling we can say, this person could change their form into flies. So they change some things about them. The core remains the same, but some things around the stories can be changed. So when we go back to our communities, we can see something that looks like a piece of evidence that shows the existence of this historical legendary figure. An example for the Luo community, we had a soldier named Luanda Magere who was so great, he made us defeat our enemies, the Nandis. And when you go to Kisumu County, around that Chemelil area, there's a rock that is believed that is what he turned into when he died. These legends also tend to end with the tragic death of the hero or heroine. This death occurs mostly due to two reasons. One, the excessive pride that the hero or heroine has, also called hubris. And two, it could be as a result of betrayal by someone else. Luanda Magere was betrayed by the bride that he was given by the Nandi people. So most of these stories end with the death of our main character, and they die because of betrayal or excessive pride, failure to listen to people's counsel. As we've seen, a legend is a story that talks about a hero or a heroine, someone who achieved an extraordinary feat, and they always tend to have some superhuman abilities that enable them to achieve these feats. This brings us to the end of our examination of the different types of oral narratives. If you found value in this series, don't forget to subscribe because there's a lot of brilliant content that we're lining up for you. If you'd also like to support the channel so that we can make better videos and have bigger conversations, there are links in the description of this video how you can help us do that. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.